up, what up, what up? Great morning. Great morning, great morning. Great morning, everyone. You just tuning in. Do me a favor, share this out to as many people as you can. We'll be there in a few minutes. Go live real quick on Facebook. Just let everybody know where we at. Well, if you're here, say good morning so that we can see your comments. So we can know you're here. Great morning, everyone. Great morning, everybody. We're going to go live real quick on Facebook just to let everybody know where we're at. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Nikkei. Good morning. Good morning. Listen, do me a favor. Share this out to as many people as you can. We're going to go ahead and get ready to go live on Facebook where we are. And we'll be with you guys in about 2 minutes. Great morning, everybody. Great morning, Facebook. Good morning, Facebook fans. Listen, we're going to go live for breakfast with the Brooks. Super excited about an opportunity we have to come and share with you guys. Day after my birthday. Got a lot going on this end. Appreciate all the birthday love from everyone yesterday. Thank you. What's going on, everybody? Do me a favor real quick. If you are here on Facebook, I want you to go over to YouTube and join us for Breakfast with Brooks at about 1 minute and a half. Right? So we're going to be live on Facebook, YouTube in about a minute and a half. Link in the description for those of you guys who are on Facebook. We're super excited. Want to make sure that you guys can look over. Do me a favor, share this out, even if this is by way of replay for you guys on Facebook. Share this out for me. Let everybody know that if you want to increase your level of intimacy, not only with your significant other, your kids, the people that you are in relationship with, most people are challenged in this area because, quite frankly, they've never been taught on what that looks like. So if you're here on Facebook, say good morning. I'd love to be able to acknowledge you, certainly by way of replay. Jackson is busy this morning, so we're going to try and figure this all out. But we're going to be going live in about 30 seconds on YouTube, talking about the 4 types of intimacy. We've been on this subject for the last 2 weeks. This is part 3. So I'm excited. The day after my birthday. And I just want to say a huge thank you. We increased our YouTube subscriptions by almost 100 subscriptions in less than 24 hours. Due to many of you guys who come on and said, you know what, we certainly wouldn't be able to give that to the ministry. And a gift to me on my birthday. So listen, 20 seconds. We'll see you guys over on YouTube. Those of you guys who are listening by Facebook, and we're going to go ahead and let you guys go. Pop over. Link is in the description. Breakfast with the Brookses goes down. What's going on, Marlon? In about 5 seconds. Don't be good when you talk soon. YouTube. We're coming to you guys in just a few seconds here. Appreciate you guys for jumping on. Great morning, everybody. Great morning, everybody. Got a different look here out here in this area of the house. Listen, I just wanted to just jump on really quickly. We're going to get some tea and all that sort of stuff. I'm still hot and sweaty, trying to get myself all dried off. Super excited. For those of you guys who shouted us out on my birthday, I just want to say a huge thank you. Thank you. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys for all of the love, all of the birthday love. We're going to come back in a minute. Carla, we've missed you. Hope all is well. And Sheri and I are going to be here live in a minute. She's back there clearly getting the coffee situation. Well, actually, I think we're going to have some tea. I've been drinking black tea lately, y'all. Hoo-wee. That stuff is potent. I don't know what in the world coffee drinkers was thinking about. Anyway, but that's keeping me off of coffee, and I'm trying to figure out if the caffeine is worse. I don't know, but it is pretty good. Y'all be good. We'll be back in just 1 minute, just about 1 minute. Y'all stay tuned. Coming back for Breakfast with the Brookses this morning. Great to have everybody. Do me a favor, share this out to as many people as possible. Also, let us know what city you're chiming in from. What is the temperature there? It is clearly overcast here, and we're trying to figure it out. We'll be back in just one moment. Started here in a few seconds, guys. Appreciate everybody. Super excited. Hopefully everybody's morning is going well. It's the day after my birthday. Got a lot happening over here. Marlon, is it your birthday? Wow. Okay. What's going on? Love it. Virgo's in the building. Virgo season. I love it. We'll be here in just 1 second, guys. Trying to get a couple things set up. Do me a huge favor, share this out. Y'all, we are almost at 700 subscribers on YouTube, and I am super elated about that this morning. I love it. That's what's up. Appreciate it. But, honey. Awesome. Love it. Sorry we're taking a little bit longer this morning, guys, trying to recover from this birthday situation. Quarantine style. We had a great time. Great time. Great to have everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Super excited to have you. I feel like we've just run a marathon.
My hair's cut off.
Your head is cut off, and so is mine. Our camera shot is not what I'd like it to be because I did not adjust this properly.
It's okay.
So let's
Good morning, guys.
What's up, everybody? What's up?
If you can hear us okay, give us a thumbs up. Hope everybody's had a great weekend, and welcome to Breakfast with the Brooks. For those of you that are new to our channel, I am.
Who are you?
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fixing myself.
Okay. I am Sheri Brooks Jr., author, speaker, relationship coach, and this lovely 54-year-old
chocolate man,
young man next to me
is Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, still trying to get myself together. Marriage is for the mature. I just want to let y'all know if y'all want to get that t-shirt, you certainly can get that on our website, glenpbrooksjr.com. Friendship is absolutely the key to a successful relationship. I'm still sweating for some reason. I got my fan on.
This is also available
I
on
hope
our
it's
website.
not too much in the background, but it's also available on our website, guys. I'm excited, baby. Today is going to be a good day. We're talking about intimacy. We're picking up where we left off. We've got a lot happening this morning.
I can't see this morning. So
it's okay.
I need a little assistance.
It's okay. It's okay.
I couldn't find my glasses.
It's okay. It's okay. So, guys, if you are just chiming in for the very first time, if this is your first time, do me a huge favor. I got it right here,
I can't see that.
Okay.
I can't see.
No worries. I thought you couldn't see what was on the screen. You can't see none of that? Wow. Jackson, that's enough. No. I'm getting ready to shoot him with the water. Do me a favor. Give me the water bottle, because Jackson is misbehaving, guys. He gets the water shot at him when he's misbehaving.
He's over there now.
Okay, so guys, listen really quickly. Atlanta, it's 75 and muggy. It is, what's the temperature here? I think it's probably something very, very similar here, guys. Here's what I want to do real quick.
It's 74 and cloudy.
What I want to do really quickly is I want to talk to you guys. Somebody said I woke up enlightened today. I want to talk a little bit about, if you've been here for the last couple of weeks while we've been talking about this subject, dealing with intimacy, I want you to put me in the chat. If you've been here for the last few weeks and this is not your first time around the bend with us on this series, put me in the chat. If you are here for the first time, meaning you've not been a part of this series as we've been here over the last couple of weeks, do me a huge favor. And I want you to put new in the chat. Put new in the chat. Put new. And the reason why is because I just want to kind of gauge how much recap we really need to do, because I really want to get into this part. How many of you guys have ever been in a relationship where the intimacy has been challenged for you? It's really been a challenge for you to be able to really move close to people in a relationship. Maybe you are challenged personally with intimacy issues, and it's always been put I understand in the chat if that's you. When I say intimacy, what do you say?
When I think intimacy, I think closeness.
I think closeness. Sorry about that. Okay.
I think closeness.
Okay.
It's not, I know a lot of people, when you say the word intimacy, the first thing they go to is the physical.
Yeah.
But I think it's much more than just physical. I think there are several levels, and we talked about the different types of intimacy, and we talked about the first three, which are emotional, mental, and spiritual.
Spiritual.
Today
We're
going to talk about spiritual here today. Yeah, and then also there's physical. And so I think that people often associate intimacy with just the physical, with the physical touch, with physical intimacy, with PDA, public displays of affection. But there are other levels of intimacy. There are other ways when you think about your relationships, your friendships, you're not necessarily physically intimate with your best friend,
right?
But there's a level of intimacy because you guys connect on a different
level. And then I would say that, you know what, you are physical with your intimate. You are, if you understand what physical intimacy really is, you can absolutely be physically intimate without sex.
Right.
Let me put that. Let me put that out there. And we're going to talk about that a lot next week. The next time we get on, guys, is because a lot of times people associate intimacy from a physical standpoint with sex. And that is so this much of it, right? It's just really not all of what this culture has called it to be. So today I want to recap just a little bit. We got a couple of I understands in the chat, a couple of news in the chat. Hey, Nicole, let me give some shout out. Mrs. Green, what's going on?
Good morning.
What's happening, everybody? Nikkei, good to see you. Looks like we got Lakita in the room. Carla is in the room. Shout out to everybody. I thought I saw Marlon's Hudson scroll through the timeline there. I think today is his birthday. Happy birthday to all my September babies. It is Virgo season. For those of you guys who are celebrating a birthday this month, happy birthday. I just want to say publicly before we get started, thank you so much for the adjustment that you made. I know the rain did not allow your original plans to go down that you wanted to do for me. According to the way you planned it in your mind. But I'm going to tell you right now, you are probably the real MVP when it comes to picking up a fumble and getting that bad boy across the finish line, Sheri. Thank you so much. I was absolutely blessed beyond measure. Had our kids over last night, and that's why I'm so tired. We just had a great time, and then we stayed up watching movies and whatnot, and just enjoying each other even in these pandemic situations. Here's what I refuse to do. I refuse to let anything on the outside control what's going on in the inside. I'm going to say that again. I refuse to let anybody or anything on the outside, culture, what's going on in the world, what's going on in everybody else's life, to intrude on the intimacy that we're building on the inside over here. And I just want to say huge thank you. Oh, so Marlon, your birthday was yesterday, brother? You a September 11th baby? Wow. I don't meet very many people who have birthdays on my day. Well, happy belated birthday,
Happy
my
belated
birthday brother.
birthday.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So that's just the way that goes, and I appreciate everybody for showing up. Today we're going to go ahead and get into this content, and I think it's really important, babe, for us to slow down for a quick second and just define, if we can, what the word intimacy is. When y'all hear the word intimacy, what comes to your mind? You said closeness. What do you say? Put it in the chat. Sheri, you said closeness. What do you say, guys? Put it in the chat. Go ahead. You have something you want to share? So the reason why I wanted to do that, guys, is I wanted to develop a benchmark around this idea of what intimacy looks like. So often in relationships, it becomes very difficult to move toward people.
Right.
You can't do what you don't know. And I think, unfortunately, we get into relationships and the challenge becomes, I need this thing, but I don't know how to ask for this thing. And I certainly don't know how to show you better than I can tell you what this thing even looks like.
Right.
And that becomes a big challenge.
Right. And I recently gave an example was talking to some ladies about intimacy. And I think oftentimes we are very guarded by nature.
Yep.
Just the way that we grow up, things from past hurts. We're always guarded when we first meet people. We put this wall up. And the truth of the matter is, if you stay like this, you're not letting anybody in, but you're also not letting your own light out. And I think when we think of intimacy is simply you allowing somebody to, give me your hand, because we did it this way. So if I stay like this,
right,
I'm not letting him in.
Right.
But he's also I'm not able to come into his life either.
Right.
But if I open up,
let's do it this way,
we're able to come together.
Right.
Now, like I said, people think about this as just physical. It's not just physical, because it's opening my heart up. It's opening my emotions. It's opening my mind up to somebody. If you stay like this, if you stay closed up, you don't let the sun in. You don't let goodness into your life. You don't let things into your life. Also,
100%.
It is risky, but it's in risk that you get to grow. And so just like the flowers, they risk opening their bulb to possible infestation, to possibly being eaten. But they also are opening themselves up to bees pollinating them. They're opening themselves up to the sunlight shining on them and causing them to blossom.
Great
and
analogy,
so not
baby.
Opening yourself up, not being open to intimacy, not being willing to be, and intimacy is ultimately vulnerability. Being willing to be vulnerable with other people to let them in.
So many of you guys, we asked the question, and thanks so much, Jeff. Good to see you on the call this morning. Shout out to all of you guys. If this is your first time on Breakfast with the Brookses, put first time in the chat. We certainly want to welcome you to the community. My name's Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach, a relationship coach. And Sheri is the same. One of the things that we like to let people know is that we've written 7 books between the two of us. This is what we do.
Yes.
We've been married for 21 years in a row. It'll be 22 in January. But we both were married prior to each other. I was married twice. She was married once. I was married
twice. You were married once.
You were married twice. I was married once. I was married once 12 years. And so that made it felt like it was twice, I guess, to some degree. Because I was just an absolute idiot. I had problems. I didn't know what I didn't know. And unfortunately, it tripped me up. And so when we became knowledgeable and we came into a level of understanding as to what this is, what it could be, and what's really going on, we just decided that we would not keep that to ourselves, but that we would share that with everyone. And so the successes that we've had over the years has been due to us being able to grow our relationship. So I'm going to just go ahead and read really quickly. A couple of you guys put communication in the chat. When we asked the question, what did you consider intimacy? When you hear the word intimacy, what pops in your mind. And some of you said communication, connection. Let me read to you really quickly just the basic definition of what intimacy is. And it is a close, I need y'all to put this down, a close, familiar, and usually affectionate or loving personal relationship with another person or a group. And so what we have been doing for these last few weeks, we entered into a closeness challenge within our MAPS community. By the way, if you want to be a part of the MAPS Relationship Academy, certainly go to glennpbrooksjr.com, sign up for a free discovery session. It's where Sheri and I get the opportunity to grow with people who want to grow their relationships very intentionally. And so that's what that is for. And so we certainly hope that you would come join us. But we've been on a challenge. And every day you have a different challenge to be able to do. And the goal is at the end of 28 days is to develop the habit of being close. The habit of being close.
And a lot of that has to do with just simply considering the other person. Being able to prefer the other person and doing something to connect. Intentionally doing something every day to connect to that person in a way, whether it's a physical connection, a mental connection, an emotional connection, or a spiritual connection, but it's connecting with the person that you love, with that significant other in your life, or even with your children. Intentionally trying to connect with them daily, because I think a lot of times people just assume that because you're in a relationship that you're connected, and that's so not true.
Bad assumption.
A lot of relationships fall apart because people drift apart, but that's because they have not continued to intentionally stay connected.
Absolutely.
And when you let life come in, which it does, if you aren't intentional about your relationship, other things will come in and impede it, and they can create a barrier that you'll look up one day and realize you're no longer connected.
So guys, real quick, we're going to do a very quick recap for those of you guys who were not here for the first three sessions and first two sessions. Today we're going to go to part three. There are 4 types of intimacy. I want you to put this down. Number 1 is emotional intimacy. Put that in the chat. Emotional intimacy. Put that in the chat. When we say emotional intimacy, we're talking about affirming. We're talking about caring. We're talking about genuinely being interested in each other's feelings.
Right. So it's caring about that other person. It's being able to be, like I said, being open emotionally, allowing that person into your emotions, and also considering their emotions. Considering how they feel, considering what they may be going through. And it's a much deeper level. Really being able to understand that person. And a lot of that comes in by understanding who it is that you're dealing with, understanding who that person is, their personality, their temperament. I'm fine. Just getting to know them on a much deeper level to be able to connect to them on that emotional level.
Absolutely. Number 2 is mental intimacy. Tiffany, I appreciate you putting that in the chat. Mental intimacy. Put that down real quick. And we're pulling this apart in our MAPS Relationship Academy on very deep levels. One of the things I love about that community is that we get a chance to talk about people's specific stuff. And you get a chance to share. We get a chance to grow as a community. And quite honestly, we're doing things there that we don't do here. And so we certainly want to encourage you to go to glennpbrooksjr.com, sign up to become a part of that. Because when we talk about mental intimacy, what we're actually talking about is the ability to have meaningful conversation.
It's a meeting of the mind.
Have you ever been in a relationship with a person and the conversations that you guys have are all surface? That sucks. And the reason why is because most people want to go a little deeper than the surface. Now, everybody's not a deep talker, deep thinker, and I'm not talking about the philosophy, the philosophical ways of connecting and this whole thing. No, this is nothing esoterical. It's nothing out there and it's spooky. This is just about having meaningful conversation. What do you actually care about?
It's being able to have stimulating conversations. I don't care. It can be about sports if you both are interested in sports, but you're able to have deep conversations or stimulating conversations that challenge you. Conversations that, cause you to think in a different, they're able to challenge you in your thinking. And cause you to grow. And
the reason why this is so good, guys, is because this is where you get to the place where you begin to share each other values. When you talk about things that are meaningful, what you really begin to traffic in is the values that people have. So for instance, meaningful conversation can be, well, what do you think about this current political climate? A lot of people will not enter those kinds of conversations with one another in relationships because in many cases, it creates some kind of, it stirs some stuff up. And you don't want that. Or you may be private and you don't want people to know what you really think. Here's the challenge with that. You're going to always be challenged with being able to grow your level of mental intimacy if you will not dive into meaningful conversations with people.
Right. And I think the thing that's key about that is that when you're willing to have those conversations, it helps you to define what you really value. Because if I really have a strong opinion about something, I can have a conversation about that. If it's something that I really don't care about or that I'm not really interested in, the conversation is going to be awkward. And that's okay. But at least you get to realize, okay, this really isn't an issue that I'm concerned about. Maybe I should. Maybe I should look into it a little more. That's an interesting perspective. I never thought of that. But if you're not willing to even have that conversation, you don't get to possibly hear something that may challenge your thinking, because you may be like, oh, forget it. I don't care about that. But having a conversation, being open to talk about something that maybe is not necessarily something that's a touch point for you, will allow you to hear a different perspective and may challenge you to grow in that area.
Babe, that's a good idea. That's a good, I love how you put that, because oftentimes people will shy away from conversations that they personally don't care about.
Right.
And the problem is that it's not necessarily the direct conversation that needs to be had. Sometimes it's the peripheral conversation. So you may not necessarily be concerned about, let's say, and I'm going to just use politics just because of the current climate that we're in. That might not be your subject. That might not be the thing that you're thinking. Well, he's over here. Oh, is he? Okay.
Give me the
that might be the thing that you're not really concerned about. But I guarantee you one thing, you are concerned about how it affects you.
Right.
You would be concerned about how that later connects to something that you hadn't even thought about that affects your household, right? So just entering into that meaningful conversation with someone can enlighten you and put you on to something that you just didn't know about. Recently, Apple's stock split. And if anybody who is any way interested in financial investment, you know that's a huge, big deal. Well, a friend of mine who I engage with in levels of meaningful conversation, who I hadn't talked to personally in a minute, shot me a quick note and texted me and let me know, yo, I don't know if you know, but Apple's stock just split. And so I'm getting ready to pick me up several shares. I just wanted you, he knows I'm an Apple user. I'm an iOS device user, MacBooks, iPhones, the watch, all of that. And so he thought, yo, that might concern him. And so I said, you know what? Thank you for the information. And we picked up a few shares ourselves. So the point I'm making is that meaningful conversation that we've had years ago. I mean, when I say years ago, he and I met probably more than 20 years ago, and his area was finances, of which I knew little about. And we entered and began dialoguing and got into some meaningful conversation that, quite frankly, is now benefiting me financially. Does that make sense? And so those kinds of meaningful conversations, although that might not be my thing, because I'm still not that guy, but I promise you, I'm super excited about the opportunity to be a part of a solution that's going to help me in the long run. So that made so much sense to me. Go ahead, babe.
Right. Real quick before we go into today's topic, I just wanted to address one question that I see. Someone asked, what do you do when you are never asked, but your input or stance is assumed? I think the thing that we have to remember in any relationship, that communication is key, and communication is a two-way street. Communication is a two-way street, and so if you are not communicating where you are, that leaves people to assume. So if you're noticing that somebody is responding to you in a way that you think it's because they're assuming something, you have to communicate and clarify for them where you are and what your stance is. You don't allow somebody to walk around in assumptions. Now, if you're dealing with somebody that's not open to hearing you, then at that point they can assume on. But your part is to communicate where you are. Now, whether they receive it or not, whether they agree with it or not, that's out of your control. But your responsibility in the relationship is to communicate your feelings, where you are, and what you're going through.
Now, I want to add to that, babe, because when I hear that, I often hear that, and I just happen to know Lakita personally enough to know she's an introvert, right? She is a high turtle, high chameleon. And a lot of times, because the nature of introverts isn't to be vocal. That's the nature of most introverts.
And I was like that.
Unless they are vocal, you don't know what they're thinking. So here's what happens when you don't communicate. you actually leave things that you're thinking about up for assumption.
Right, right.
And I need you to take control of that, right?
Right.
It's really about you interjecting and you really kind of starting the conversation to some degree about what you think and what you feel, particularly if it's the climate or if it's the culture at that moment. We're in this hotly contested whole political season. So it would be appropriate for you to talk about your views or what you think. And that is the truth of the matter is when you do that, it opens you up for the ability to grow in that area.
Right. And I know that was hard for me early in our relationship. I was not a good communicator. And so one thing that I did very early on, I would shoot you like these page-long emails, or I'd write you. I would write it. I
remember that,
my
babe.
feelings because I was like, I have to share it.
Yes.
But it was hard for me to actually have the conversation.
I remember having great
and this was before
anxiety.
We weren't texting like that, so I would just email him.
Man, Sheri would shoot me an email and say, hey, I just wanted to share. That would be the subject. Bro, let me say this. When I got an email like that, it was like, oh, Lord. I had to get myself together, go sit down somewhere, and get my mind right just to read the email because I know she was getting ready to go deep. And the truth of the matter is these were words that you generally couldn't articulate out loud or just say it, but you would write that. And I remember how painful it was for me to read it because I wasn't patient enough to sit down and read stuff from start to finish. And so for me, I'm like, why don't you just call me? Why don't you just tell me? Why don't you just let me know? Right. And I didn't know that was your process to getting to the place to where you don't send me emails anymore. No. You just say, hey, can we talk for a second? Right. And I just said to myself, so we've grown in that area immensely. And her being able.
For all those long emails.
No, man, it's okay. It's okay. You was trying to get it out. It's all good. It's all good. So,
but that's one way. If you find it difficult to communicate something to somebody,
yes,
or to open up to a person, send them. I mean, we're in the world of technology. Shoot them a text.
Sorry about that, guys.
Communicate with them through that method. Write them a letter and mail it to them.
Right.
The post office does still work.
Yep. No, they're still in business, guys.
They're still in business right now.
So we got, speaking of writing, we got some long comments, and I want to go back to some of these in a minute, guys, but I want to kind of get through this content, and we're going to open it up for some Q&A. So keep it coming. Put it in the chat if you got questions. If you got, maybe there's something you don't understand and you want us to kind of touch on it, we're going to talk about that because we still haven't gotten to the topic of today. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about today. Number 3, we're going to talk about spiritual intimacy. Put that in the chat. Spiritual intimacy. What's going on, everybody, for chiming in? Thanks to everybody for chiming in. Mom and J Squad. That always throws me off. That is, I want to say Kamiko, but it's not Kamiko. Because I can't see the thumbnail for me. Who is Mom and J Squad real quick?
Isn't that,
put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. I can't see the icon from here. This is crazy. We struggling. We struggling, guys. Listen, I want y'all to do me a favor. Put spiritual intimacy in the chat. Put spiritual intimacy in the chat.
Kofia.
When you
that's
hear
what I thought
about
it was Kofia.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kofia.
Sorry, Kofia, I don't have my glasses on.
And we
I need to get contacts.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Oh man, I don't know what it is. I think it's that stuff we sprayed to keep Jackson back. We got a little solution that we're spraying, and it keeps Jackson.
It's natural. It's not harmful.
It's not harmful, but it just kind of caught a whiff of that. So real quick, spiritual. When you hear spiritual intimacy, what do you automatically think? Put it in the chat. What do you automatically think? Nicole, thanks for that. Appreciate it. What do you automatically think when you hear spiritual closeness? What do you hear? Talk to me. Put it in the chat. What do you hear, Sheri? What do you hear?
Your relationship, your spiritual relationship, I don't want to say religious. Your religion.
Religion? Okay. Anybody else? When you hear that word spiritual intimacy, what are you hearing? Talk to me. Put it in the chat. Tiffany said religion. Okay. That's safe. Anybody else? Real quick, put it in the chat. Come on, y'all. Engage with me a little bit. And the reason why is because I want to understand where your mind is before we start talking about what it really is, so that we can make sure that there's some things we probably don't even talk about if I understand where you guys are. So do me a favor, put what you think in the chat when it comes to spiritual intimacy. And here's one of the things that I want to say off the break while you guys are getting close to your keyboard. Equally yoked. I like that one. I like that one. Relationship with God. Okay, great. Great. When you're talking about this part of intimacy, this is a tough one. And there's several reasons why this is a tough one. And the reason, one of those reasons is simply because, quite honestly, it is the makeup of who you are in a lot of ways. And so when this particular area is far apart and it's not close, it can wreck a relationship real fast. And the reason why is because it deals with something that is critical to you as a human being. So somebody said equally yoked. I'm going to choose to use that for a quick second. When you talk about spiritual intimacy, guys, I want you guys to understand we're talking about having respect for each other's belief systems.
Right.
I want you to put that in the chat. Belief system. When you hear that word spiritual, I don't want you to lean into automatically religion, your relationship with God, what religion you practice, whether you're Muslim or Catholic or that's not what we're talking about. Although that can be a part of it, don't get me wrong. That's not the crux of it. The crux is, what is your system of belief? Because you can have people who are both Christians and have two different systems of belief. I need y'all to hear that. How many times have you met a fellow believer who actually walks the word of God out in a way that the other one doesn't?
But they're both believers.
They both will tell you in a heartbeat, I have a personal relationship with Christ. That's not the issue. So it's deeper than that. Let me tell you why. Because this belief system has everything to do with how people move, how people think, how they process. And as a result of that, if you don't learn what that is and begin to develop a level of respect for it, then it's going to jam you up, because you will assume that because we're both believers, we have a same belief system. Let me give you an example. As a believer, there are certain things that convicts me that don't convict you. You feel a deep level of association to certain things, and I don't. Does that make sense? And so if you and I don't understand why those things are or why that is, we can't move closer together.
And so spiritual intimacy more so has to do with your values, your inner values, what makes you tick, what the things that motivate you. Like, for instance, so for me, when we first met, family was like my number one value. It still is today. But if I could not be in a relationship with a person that did not that we weren't close, or that was not understanding, or wasn't willing to, accept that part of me. And so spiritual intimacy could be, you may be the type of person that you have a heart, or you value giving to others. You value,
that's a great one right there.
You value
giving. You have some believers
others
who are natural givers and they love that. And then you have some that are stingy.
Or not even thinking about monetary. Like, so if I'm the type of person that I value giving to people, so I'm going to the food bank. I'm doing
You're doing
a lot of different outreach stuff, whether it's going to feed the homeless, whatever. That's something that is, I value that. That's something that I've got to do. And so if I hook up with somebody that they are like, why you doing that? Ain't nobody got to be doing all that. Ain't got no
time for that. They need to go get a job.
You guys don't connect. There's no spiritual intimacy. You guys are not connecting in that way. And so you have to be aware of the values that you guys have, because that your values help you to reach that spiritual intimacy, because that's what's beneath the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about that, I want you guys to think shared purposes. I'm going to stay on the whole outreach piece for a second. If you are the kind of person that, for whatever reason, and I talked earlier about something that convicts you, something that pricks your heart, spiritually, it disturbs your peace when this isn't right. For you to drive down the road and see a person on the corner panhandling or asking for money, it may cause something in your heart to say, give them some change. If you're in the car with a person who doesn't value that, they may begin to look at you like you crazy or that you are strange. And the reason why is because that is not their value system. Here's the problem. The more you grow in relationship, the more that's going to become evident.
Right.
And the more that's going to become a point of contention. So that idea of giving to the homeless or giving to the poor or to those who are less fortunate can cost the other person in the relationship.
Right. Right.
If your kid feels like you are giving away the money that they could have for the latest gadget, that's going to raise a problem in the relationship because they're going to feel slighted.
Right.
Does that make sense? If your husband or significant other feels like that you are tithing or giving to the church because of a particular outreach program that the church is doing, and you are, quote, taking money out of the family's household or budget, therein lies a issue.
Right, right.
And those are the bones or the points of contention that, quite frankly, will ruin a relationship. And it's not because of the thing on the surface, guys. It's really because of what you value. And the problem or the challenge is no one ever drilled down on their values prior to that relationship blooming. And so when that relationship starts growing or moving along, those values become evident. And here's what happens. You begin to see how far apart you really are.
Right, right.
Go ahead.
Right. And just speaking of that, so for, like I said, your values will give you your inner peace. So I'll use this as an example. So for, like I said, family has always been a value, my number one value.
It wasn't always mine.
Right. And so there was a period of time we had moved to Atlanta.
Yes.
My daughter was going through some things, and that being away from my family was disturbing my inner peace. I was not at peace because I wasn't near my family. We were in Atlanta. We were there with our church family, but we were away from our biological family. We didn't have any of our biological family there. Then my parents started going through some things. My inner peace was disturbed because I was not near my family, because that's what I value. And so I needed that in my life because that's what I value, and it affected my inner peace. And so if you're not aware of what you value, or even if you are aware of what you value and you don't give credence to that, you will notice your inner peace will be disturbed.
Absolutely.
Because if you're suppressing that because you want to be with this person, even though they don't value what you value, eventually what's going to happen is your inner peace is going to be disturbed by that.
And let me give you a real example on that same subject matter. And because family at that point in time was not nearly as high on my list of values, my solution to that is jump on a plane, go visit, go spend time. We could do that 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year. My rationale was when we were in the same city, we did not see our family as much as you're talking about. Does that make sense?
But I could be there like that if I needed
and it was the notion or the thought that if I needed to be there, there's no barrier. That's what disturbed her peace.
Right.
I'm thinking, and again, my rationale, well, it's only an hour flight. For crying out loud, there's some family members that live more than an hour's drive. Same barrier. Different expense or price point. But in my mind, we could figure that out. Y'all see how that's not on the same page? You see how, in my mind, I could rationalize that as being not a big deal?
Right.
That's because it wasn't a top value of mine. That didn't make me a horrible person.
Right.
It made me a person who just didn't value family on the same level as she did. And it caused problems.
Right. It created a rift in our relationship.
It did.
Because of that.
It did.
We were able to work through it, and we were able to...
That was a tough season.
Come through that.
Yep.
But it definitely created a rift. And I think that people, when you're not aware of those things, the truth was I was aware that was a value of mine. And so when I started... My peace was by that point, I was able to communicate. I was able to share with him where I was. We were able to talk about it and talk through it. But a lot of times, if you're not able to communicate, if you're not able to share those things, that rift will just continue to grow, and that riptide will tear the two of you apart, unfortunately.
Yeah, let me deal with this, and then we're going to get ready to go for the day, guys, because we got a lot going on. But Lakita says, and I can be wrong, but I think that the younger the couple marries, let me move this out of the way, without community and or help, the harder the road to recovery when these truths and tests arise. Keita, let me say this. Nothing is more truer than that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, it's always, it's great to have learned these things as a foundation when you get married or very early in your marriage. But I mean, we've also seen couples that get it later, but it's a much harder road to overcome.
Yes.
When you've been married 10, 15, 20 years and you're just discovering these things and you realize that there's been this divide to be able to come back together. It's possible in some cases, some cases it's not. But it's definitely better, especially when you're young, because I mean, like I was 19 the first time I got married. I didn't know what I was doing.
I was 20.
I had no guidance. It was an extension of dating. And literally, I felt like every other month I was breaking up with him. It was like, I don't like you no more.
Yeah.
I'm breaking up with you.
But you're married.
Right. So when you are young, and I think that unfortunately, most of us don't learn this stuff when we're young before we start dating.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of these things that we talk about, especially in the Master Relationship Academy, teaching people about their values, understanding the importance that young adults don't learn this stuff before they start dating, before they start getting into serious relationships. If I had known all this information before I ever got in a relationship, I would have had one marriage.
Probably. I'm sure.
I don't think that I would have gotten married over and over again.
Yep.
And so I think that it's imperative, if you know young adults, teenagers that are starting to date, that are in that season, we'd love to have them come into the community so that they can learn these things. One thing that we do a values assessment to help people learn their values within the MAPS Relationship Academy. So these are tools and skills that once you learn them, you can carry them the rest of your life. But I think it's great to have them as a foundation as young as possible or as early in a relationship as possible to give that foundation to build upon.
Absolutely. So guys, next week, and I agree with Tiffany, it is good to get it when you do get it, though. I promise you that, because as far as I'm concerned, as long as there's breath in your body, you have a shot. Mm-hmm. There's change is possible.
Right.
And I'm a living witness of that, because we didn't get it right the first time. We didn't know it the first time, but we got it on the back end. Mm-hmm. And we often say that this relationship, it feels like we had a cheat sheet coming in, because we saw how many ways we had screwed this up. But that all came as a result of community, to be honest with you. I don't think that it's funny, and I'll leave y'all with this. Statistically, second marriages end in divorce over 60% of the time. First marriages end in divorce just around 50%, little high 40s, just around 50%. But guess what? Second marriages end in more than 60% of the time, and third marriages end more than 70% of the time. Why is that? Because most people go into each relationship with the same information that they had in the previous one.
Right. You're just carrying the same stuff.
You're just carrying the same stuff. It's just a different person.
You keep doing it the same way.
And you somehow think that because this is a new relationship, it's a new day. And then you begin to over-spiritualize it for my spiritual people. And this is God, and that wasn't, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no. There was a level of understanding that you didn't have then. Right. And if you don't get a new level of understanding because of work you do, you will not have that in the next relationship. And that I can promise you, because we've been there and we've done that, and we know what that looks like. Well, the reason why we have been able to defy those statistics for the third and second marriages is because the level of knowledge increased. We did something different. We learned some new tips, tools, strategies, and we had a community that held us accountable to that.
Right.
And I honestly think that without a group of people, without a community, without a tribe, you're not going to get to where I always say it. You can't get to any place of significance by yourself. You can't. We all need some help. And that's just true, because the community helps to keep you accountable for the information that you
Right. And you've mentioned change, that change is possible, but you have to remember that you can only change yourself. You cannot change your spouse. You can't change anybody else around you.
All
but
facts.
as you change, as you grow, typically people respond, and the way that they respond to you changes as well. But whether they do or they not, you need to change for yourself. You want to grow as an individual. And whether it's in the current relationship or whether it's in a future relationship, you will be a better version of yourself because you have changed, because you've done some self-reflection and realized I have some areas that I need to grow in and I need to change. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we see in relationships. People are so focused on the other person. It's very easy to do this, to point at the other person, but turn that back on you. And look at you and see what are the areas that you need to grow, that you need to develop, so that you can be a better version of you, because we all have issues.
All day long.
We all do.
All day.
None of us are perfect.
Absolutely.
And so even if you only are 2% responsible for whatever's going on in your relationship, focus on that 2%.
And do the work on that 2%. And I guarantee you it will affect the 98% the next time around. Yes. And you'll be able to be that much further. Guys, we're going to get out of here for today. Next week, we're going to drill down on physical intimacy. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm super excited. That's the part that everybody really wanted.
We're gonna have fun next week.
Yeah, we're gonna have a whole lot of fun next week. So no, that's the one that everybody knows as that level of intimacy. If you have been doing the 28-day closeness challenge with us, today is day 12. We want you to lean in and make sure you execute that. We'll drop that in on our Facebook page, and so I hope that you guys would check that out and that you would decide to level up and do that challenge, because the truth of the matter is that, we all need some help. Guys, we're going to get out of here for the day today. Hope you guys have an amazing Saturday.
And as always, we all need some help.
Y'all be good. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, and have a great day.